Hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space 11.18, The Drop. We are back.
That's the drop, by the way. Alright, I'm so excited for this chapter, I cannot contain it. I'm just going to jump straight into it. Even though my throat is so tired. Far above the forest of Elysian Fields, the man called Skipper floated. Huge, emerald wings hung behind him. By the way, and I don't know if this is correct, I had heard somewhere at some point in my schooling that whenever you have two adjectives like huge and emerald, it would be like huge, comma, emerald. But I also see a lot of times it doesn't have that, and sometimes that feels wrong to have that. So, like, what is the actual ruling on that?
I just operate on vibes.
Fair enough. Well, I'm curious to see your English grades.
They just weren't ready for it.
Huge emerald wings. But I do agree it looks better how you have it now. But, like, a part of me is like, should I have a comma there? I just don't know. Huge emerald wings hung behind him like glass sculptures, but they did not flap or flutter to keep him aloft. No, it was the deafening sound blasting from his feet that kept him steady in the air. Atoy Musashi could barely hear it through the haze of pain. He had been defeated. He understood that as soon as he regained consciousness. The attacks Zachariah Esmeralda had unleashed had been far beyond anything Musashi could have imagined. The first heartbeat shotgun had been enough to end the fight. "You see," Esmeralda said, not unsympathetically, holding Musashi up by his ravaged collar. "Told you it was a bad idea, my guy." Musashi wheezed, blood trickling from his mouth. He wasn't sure of the exact nature of his injuries, but he knew they were severe. He couldn't see out of his left eye, and that entire side of his face pulsed with agony as the breeze drifted past it. The arm on that side was twisted the wrong way around as well. He must have tried to dodge and barely been caught by the blast. He couldn't quite remember. "Don't show him your back. Be silent." Musashi pushed through the pain, slowly lifting his good arm. If he could just ignite a radiant, he could still land an attack. From this distance, Esmeralda couldn't dodge. It was his best chance. If nothing else, he could make his enemy bleed. But it had been a naive hope from the beginning. Esmeralda's eyes flicked to look at the arm, trembling as Musashi slowly raised it, and he sighed. "You don't know when to give up, huh?" he said. "Well, I can sympathize. But I've got places to be." There, floating high in the air, Esmeralda negated Musashi's attack with a move that was so simple it was almost insulting. He let go. Atoy Musashi plummeted down, limbs flapping uselessly through the air, his vision fading in and out. "Morgan, a climber," he thought. "Marie, I'm sorry. I wasn't strong enough." His eyes began to close, before a final burst of will rang out through his mind, clearing the fog for just a moment. He wasn't defeated until he was dead. So long as he hadn't lost, he could still win. From this height, the fall would be fatal. He couldn't afford to fall unconscious. Silver aether crackled around him, more furiously than before, and a last-second thruster on his torso slowed his descent enough that his collision with the ground wasn't lethal, just painful. He landed on his ravaged arm, and the sharp intake of breath that resulted was enough to send him into a coughing fit. In the sky above, Esmeralda flew out of sight, with a sound like a cannon going off. Immediately, Musashi knew the man had left. He wouldn't take the effort to finish Musashi off. After all, he wasn't worth that time. "Get up," he urged himself. "You can't stay here. You need medical assistance." Yes, medical assistance. Right now, that was his goal. Find a doctor, or a healer, or something. It was vague, but it was something to hold on to. A grip to keep himself from losing consciousness. Musashi wiped his mouth as clean of blood as he could, noting that his hand came away more red than he'd anticipated, and tried to rise to his feet. His legs trembled beneath him, and it took a couple of attempts, but in the end he was able to prop himself up against a tree. A medic. Where would he find a medic? Someone with healing abilities wouldn't be on the front line, surely. They'd remain near the back to treat the wounded. Or would they? This wasn't a normal army, after all. There was little coordination. There was no guarantee that a healer would be in a strategically sound position. Aether ping. He could do that. No, he couldn't. The fog would prevent it. Awkwardly, he put his good hand to his ear, only to find that the communicator there had been shattered. He couldn't call for rescue, either. Atoy Musashi was just considering what an awful situation he'd found himself in when he heard the digging. They climbed out of the ground one by one like humanoid landmines, spindly automatics with spears clutched in their hands. Half a dozen cyclopean red eyes glared at Musashi through the white haze around them. Executioner automatics, just like the ones he dealt with in the tunnels. Musashi suspected it wouldn't be so easy now. The executioners advanced slowly and cautiously from all directions, ready to block or dodge the instant they saw Musazi's attack. Musazi could only conjure a weak and frail radiant from his good hand, waving it around threateningly to slow the executioner's stride as much as possible. It wouldn't for long. When they attacked, Musazi doubted he would even be able to dodge. A distance was misjudged, a movement mistimed, and the fatal moment came. Musazi moved his radiant slightly, and the nearest executioner smashed it into nothingness with a sharp wave of its spear. As Musazi collapsed to one knee, the same executioner lunged forward, ready to stab down with its spear and impale Musazi through the spine. The shriek of the executioner pierced through Musazi before the weapon. Was that the last thing he'd hear? No. Bang! And the moment before the executioner would have impaled Musazi, a bullet smashed through its single eye, exiting through the back of its head and sending it flying backwards. As the destroyed automatic twitched weakly on the floor, its compatriots paused. Wrong. It's their own eyes flicking towards the new rival. New World Order. Marcus Grace's white coat swished against the ground as he strode through the forest, his cogitant blue eyes resolute. With that same grim expression on his face, he reloaded his pistol, spent cartridge dropping down into the undergrowth. His gaze flicked down to Musazi, still on the ground. What's his voice?
You're sort of like a professional guy.
You might want to change to he looked down.
Oh.
On your feet, soldier, Marcus said, voice cold but not unkind. There's work to be done. Yes, there was, wasn't there? There was a responsibility yet to be fulfilled. As that thought anchored itself in his mind, Musazi's aether responded to it, flaring up into an aurora all around him. Strength he'd thought long gone trickled into his bones as he rose to his feet, and the radiant he ignited in his hand was bright and true. Until he'd lost, he could still win, and Toy Musazi had no intention of losing. So, Seth Harrowing said, covering his nose to ward off the scent of burning flesh. What now? After Paxton's spell had been completed, cutting off the enemy's communications, his sacrifices had been reduced to a meager pile of soot in the middle of his magic circle. Seth watched as a cleaning automatic Mara had brought along dutifully cleaned up the mess. Paxton rubbed his long beard. Alas, such impatience! But I shall answer you all the same. Now that our loathsome adversaries... fuck you.
No, you'd have to go back.
Now that our loathsome adversaries can no longer coordinate their sufferings, we are free to pursue them individually. Our next spell shall unleash an unavoidable attack upon one of these so-called people of interest. The one after that shall do the same, and so forth until we have achieved victory for our group. I see, Seth muttered, rubbing his own chin. So you can do attacks with this Pax Magica too, huh? Of course! Paxton grumbled in annoyance. So long as I understand the magical phenomena I wish to weave into existence, and I have the sacrifice's good conduct demands, I can accomplish anything! Do not underestimate me, Harrowing! Right. Seth raised his hands apologetically. My bad, partner. Thanks for the info. I had to wait till you said partner to remember this is the southern guy. Harrowing! There we go. I rolled the R right that time. That was bothering me. With that, he raised his gun and shot Mara a hat between the eyes. She'd finished cleaning up the circle anyway, so it was about time. The girl fell to the ground, killed instantly by an attack she hadn't expected. Blood and brain painted the tree behind her, but Seth paid it no mind. He was already moving again. What are you? Paxton cried, climbing to his feet. But too late. Seth slammed the grip of his gun into the old man's temple, audibly cracking the bone and sending him into an unconsciousness he was unlikely to wake from. That was fine, though. So long as he was still technically alive, that was fine. His dirty work done, Seth returned his revolver to its holster. He made sure to handle it with care. It had been a gift, after all. I'm curious about this revolver, and if it is at all related to a certain fan fiction.
Oh.
Is it? Smile?
I wouldn't get your hopes up.
Okay. He'd have no choice but to
go... in Aetheral Space universe.
Hey, I mean, alright. He had no choice but to go chase his target after this, but that didn't mean he was willing to leave empty-handed. He wanted that wish too, after all. That was why he'd spent the last hour or so coming up with this slick and easy plan. The more important the sacrifice is to you, Seth spoke to the unconscious Paxton as he dragged Mara's corpse into the magic circle, the more Pax Magica can do, right? You said it yourself. You use this girl as the cornerstone of your ability. I doubt there's anyone else as valuable on this planet. So, depositing Mara, Seth stepped over to Paxton's unconscious body and squatted down next to it. Beige aether crackling around him, he planted a hand on the old man's back. If I use her, I'll be able to pull off some real magic, huh? Forcible ability activation! Pax Magica! A sly grin spread across his face as he put together the order in his mind, compiling the information to be transmitted to and executed by the ability. Rain down hell! Popcorn, my throat hurting.
An alarm blurred across the bridge of the Tartarus, and Descendant General Tull's eyes visually flicked over to glare at it. It wasn't what he'd expected. It wasn't a report of destruction of the ground, or of a new target making itself known, or even the elimination of a person of interest. It wasn't any of those things. It was an atmospheric warning. Tull put a hand to the communicator in his ear, ignoring the intolerable chatter of the others on the bridge, Haas and the like. Tull here, what am I seeing? The voice of the operator came back uneasy, and you could hear raised tones in the background there too. We're not entirely sure, sir. Right now we're still conducting secondary checks, so hypothesis, give it to me.
I honestly think raised voices was better there than tones, personally.
Well, the voice, and I used voice twice in that sentence.
The voice of the operator came back uneasy, and you could hear maybe shouting in the background.
Sure. Hypothesis, give it to me. The operator swallowed. There's a massive amount of debris orbiting Elysian fields left over from the revolutions. As far as we can tell, it's being pulled down towards the battlefield, and it's not breaking up as much as it should. So it's going to rain fire, Tull concluded before quickly hanging up. He strode towards the console and hunched over it, bellowed his command at the same time as Winston Grace. All officers on the ground, find shelter! All you guys get the fuck out of there!
Fire rained down. I love that. It's just like, no one's gonna explain, it's just fire raining down.
Fire rains down upon Elysian fields. Like stones thrown by God, one by one, huge chunks of rubble fell from the sky and slammed into the ground.
Is he casting Meteor Swarm?
Basically, yeah. Sending great pillars of combustion flying up. Victims on both sides screamed their last as tidal waves of flame washed over them, and unfortunate bodies were pulverized as chunks of debris crushed them from above. The sky, choked by smoke and the blood lingering in the air, had been dyed a gruesome red. Musashi and Marcus threw themselves down for cover as fire crawled above them. Ruth and Morgan ignored it, running a mutual flow towards their enemy. Bruno and Serena tightened their grip on the bark as the earth shook around them. Scouts turned the body of the Houndman into a massive shield to defend the pyramid, and Roy scowled as he collected his grim bounty. Dragan, embedded in the rocks, squinted at the light of the fires, and the Supreme turned over in his sleep.
Wait, he's sleeping? Why isn't he finding a fucking Skipper?
The vibes aren't right yet.
Will the vibes be right? Musashi and Marcus threw themselves down. Ruth and Morgan ignored it. Bruno and Serena tightened their grip. Scout turned. Dragon squinted, and the Supreme slept. He's like, ooh, I think that worked out a knot in my back.
Amidst that chaos and suffering, two people knew that their moment had come. Guardian Entity, Suzaku, 99%. Vex and the Vermilion didn't know exactly what was going on, but the landing pods had stopped coming down for the moment. She didn't question it. This was their chance after all. The massive creature... Oh, sorry.
I would just keep it coming down personally, but I will leave it up to your stylistic decision.
No, yeah.
I think ending on coming down is like a harder ending than like time being.
It doesn't want to be like a big sentence there, so the information's more important.
Fair enough.
The massive creature should become the size of a starship, launch itself off the ground in an explosion of flame, like the flight of a rocket. Red feathers scattered through the air as the beast shot straight up, heading out of the atmosphere. Those nearby special officers who were unlucky were blown back by the launch. Those who were very unlucky were burnt to cinders. The beast broke through the clouds in a matter of seconds, and for the first time, in the blazing sunlight, it was fully visible. The guardian entity Zuzaki bore crimson feathers from head to toe, and with each flap of its 4 wings they drifted down like flower petals. Its 8 white eyes, 4 rings around the base of each antler, scanned the area around it and allowed it to adjust its flight path accordingly. Suzaku's massive beak protruded out, long and wide like that of a stork. The fire was constant. It blazed out from vents all over its body, giving it more maneuverability than those massive wings could ever manage on their own. As the guardian entity shot up towards the stars, it looked much like a burning star itself. You ready? Vex's voice reverberated throughout her entire body. You ready? Fucking dog. Made deep and booming by transformation. Within the airtight beak, crouched down on Vex's tongue, Lily Albrisher nodded. 1 second.
Dog troubles. We were so close. This guy loves his dog. Rookie! Stop interrupting! Oh, Rocky.
Oh, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Within the airtight beak, crouched down on Vex's tongue, Lily Albrisher nodded. She was wearing a spacesuit to be provided, sleek and black, with a bubble helmet connected up to an oxygen tank. She smiled to herself from behind the glass.
Real quick, this is just a tiny thing, I'm sorry to interrupt the moment. I like that you wrote bubble helmet. I'm going to sound stupid if that's what they're actually called, but I like that because it's a very subtle piece of world building that implies there's all kinds of different space helmets now than like the one we know of. I just like that. But if that's actually what they're called, I retract that because I sound like an
I don't
idiot.
think it's what they're actually called.
Alright, based. I just like that. It's like, that's how you add world building without having to explicitly just write out things. It's good. I like it. Very good job, Dan.
Of course, she said, electricity crackling around her lips. Time to take the fight to the Tartarus. Time to take the air.
No! Musazi's not there! He's so damaged!
He's having a bad fucking time.
If the air dies, Musazi's gonna go like, Musazi mode, 99%. It starts into a bigger version of himself.
He's got like 4 arms and they're all got swords.
He fucking puts his swords together like Darth Maul, like, with his hands on the back of his hands. Oh, that'd be sick, actually. Alright. Well, I want more, but alas, we are at an end. 7 pages. Damn it! I want more! Alright. I will say, Eyes Flicked Over is slowly becoming the new Eyes Wide.
Yeah, I've noticed this. I need to cut down on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Eyes are widening and the flicking gazes are doing shit as well.
I think overall, though, your descriptions are improving. Like, you're varying them up more. I know you notice, like, the dual words a lot, and I notice that it's like we're getting more than just, like, eyes wide and hands clasped. Like, you're really spreading that out, and I love to see it in Aetheral Space because it helps me get a little bit more invested in the scenery. Very good. It builds an atmosphere and a vibe. So, very, very good.
Nice.
Anyways, fun fact for this week.
Okay, do you have any Aetheral questions I can maybe answer? Let's have a look.
The problem is every time I have a question, your answer is who can say, so I have to think of a non-question.
I'm going to go to these questions. So, quick button says, who was the shortest serving Supreme and why was their reign over so quickly? Okay, so around 200 years prior to the story, there was a very long-serving Supreme who passed away from old age.
Right.
But, well, she was about to pass over from old age, but her doctor basically did the old pillow treatment to become Supreme. And he was killed 8 hours later by a bodyguard who then became Supreme. So that doctor,
so he became Supreme on technicality.
Well, Dr. Gladson, he killed the Supreme, became Supreme, and then died 8 hours later, so he's the shortest serving. Did he get the user?
Did he let out any orders or do anything officially Supreme before he was killed?
He did have the chance. He put together like a list of orders, sort of sent it out, but it mysteriously went missing in transit.
What was the top order on his list?
No one knows. It was sealed.
Oh, come on. Alright, what was the 14th order on his list?
It was sealed. They're all sealed. What do you want with me, though?
Are these going to become plot relevant?
No.
Then tell us.
Not for this, but maybe for something else.
Okay. Oh, Capricorn! Is Capricorn still happening?
Well, if we ever do like a tabletop committee, it would be relevant to that, is what I mean.
Oh, shit. Are you teasing an Aether tabletop?
Maybe I am. Maybe I am.
Do you have a system in mind?
Not yet, no.
I think Fate would probably be best for your, like, because I know you don't do well with, like, the big rules, and Fate lets you do a lot of broad things, but there's, like, Mutants and Masterminds probably mechanically gives you
I
the
would want
most
something
options.
similar to Good Troubles, to be honest. I really enjoy that system.
You might be able to, like, you could rework the stand rules as Aether, but it gets tough with, like, how many techniques you have and how specific they get. We'd have to tinker with it a bit, but that sounds... I would fucking sign me up for Aether campaign. It would be great, because if we have the same guys, too, none of them have read Aether, so they don't fucking know anything. I have to force them to read it. Alright, well, thank you guys for watching, as always, and we will see you next time. Bye!
Bye!